Welcome into the latest episode of Mac and Mose. Andy McNamara, joined as always by the editor-in-chief of GoDucks.com, Rob Moseley. We are here to wrap up Oregon's 8th game of the season. It was down at UCLA. It turned out to be a 31-14 loss. The Bruins and the Ducks in this one traded quarters in the first half. UCLA got out to a hot start, scored 14 points, took a 14-0 lead. The Ducks were able to claw back with a couple of Braxton Burmeister rushing touchdowns in the second quarter, going into halftime, and then they got the opening kickoff of the second half. It seemed like they had momentum, but just some down situations that didn't go their way early in the second half, and then all of a sudden UCLA had the momentum back on their side.
Yeah, I think when you talk about this Oregon team right now, you're talking about the margin of error being so slim. 7 of those UCLA points in the first quarter to build that lead, provided by an Oregon fumble. By a freshman. I mean, turnovers by true freshmen are a theme of late as well, as the Ducks try to soldier on without Justin Herbert. But yeah, an impressive second quarter that really provided some hope. And then the third quarter, again, we see just a couple of snaps that things come down to, and Oregon kind of needs everything to go its way right now. Instead, everything goes against the Ducks. You have a second down on the opening possession of the half where Braxton Burmeister gets confused about the call. It's supposed to be a run play. Tyrell Crosby pulls out to block for a run. A guy comes free and blasts Burmeister from the backside. You got a second down, a second manageable situation on the next drive after UCLA had only kicked a field goal. So the defense held up, 2nd and 4 or so. And Kenai Benoit comes into the game. There's a handoff between Braxton and Kenai. Kenai trips, maybe over Braxton's shoe. It's pretty close if you watch the replay. Ducks are in a hole again. Can't put points on the board. And then you just have 2 killer third downs. UCLA gets the ball back, converts a 3rd and long with a long completion down the field, a big-time explosion play, scores on the next play on the dramatic run, kind of hurtling into the end zone. Oregon gets the ball back in a 3rd and long situation, takes a shot down the field. It gets intercepted. Again, just some key downs there where if everything had gone Oregon's way, we could be talking about a different outcome. But where this team's at right now, just not executing in those key moments, things are going the opposition's way, and the Ducks got in a hole they couldn't get out of.
Down, from a personnel standpoint, the Ducks limited in this one, and then you're going up against one of the top quarterbacks in college football, and Josh Rosen. His stats at the end of the day weren't gaudy, but he was effective and efficient, and really, to me, it was that long 3rd down pass. And then they sort of changed the tempo up. They snapped it quickly on the next play, and I think that caught Oregon off guard just a little bit, and it turned into a long rushing touchdown. And like you say, the turnovers, 8 of them now in 3 games for the Ducks during this 3-game losing streak. And that's always been, even when the defense was giving up more yards per play, it seemed like they were more opportunistic than they are right now.
Yeah, Willie Taggart said that he came in thinking there were 3 keys to victory. Don't turn it over, don't commit penalties, and get some takeaways. Don't turn it over. We talked about that. Ducks, lose a fumble early that sets up points. Got that interception late that Burmeister throws where apparently the receiver didn't run the right route, but Braxton still tried to take a shot anyway. You kind of appreciate the confidence in that point, but you got to stay in system, and it didn't work out. So making mistakes, freshmen making freshman mistakes that help UCLA. Penalties, that is a play. It is, Ducks went 1 of 3. Only 3 flags, 15 yards. A couple of them were untimely, but there's not really a timely penalty at all. But UCLA committed some penalties in that second quarter that really helped the Ducks extend some drives and put points on the board. And some calls that if you're on the UCLA side, you thought were pretty questionable. So the penalty situation definitely worked out in Oregon's favor. But then getting takeaways. We talked in the Quack Minute last week about the Oregon's practice Wednesday, where the defensive secondary was all over the place. Just a ton of interceptions in that practice, and with the point being, hey, that's got to carry over into Saturday, and it just didn't. There's a one play at least that Ugo Amade, who otherwise I think had a pretty good game playing safety, a new position, first time he'd ever played it, but he was in coverage on that long 3rd down conversion by UCLA in the 3rd quarter, and he did have another play that he broke up, but it felt like maybe he had a chance at an interception there, and turnovers, takeaways can just really change the tide. So when you only check one of those 3 boxes, you're fighting an uphill battle.
Ducks were able to rush the ball once again, but overall, because of the lack of the passing game, without Justin Herbert in there, without a full core of fully healthy receivers, we saw that be an issue once again. But Oregon was able to move it on the ground. Royce Freeman had his best game in terms of total yards this season, 160 rushing yards. He becomes Oregon's all-time leading rusher in career rushing yards, all-time leader in 100-yard games with his 27th of his career, and then Oregon's leader in all-purpose yards as well, where he passed both Kenyon Barner and LaMichael James yesterday. So I know Royce would trade all those yards for a win yesterday, but it's been a remarkable career for him. And he's been dinged up a little bit throughout this season, and you really haven't noticed it as much on the field. He still goes out there. He toted the rock 29 times yesterday.
Yeah, there just has to be an appreciation for what he's doing right now, because without him, I mean, if teams are loading up to stop the run anyway, and he's still being able to move the ball. Tony Brooks-James out because of concussion he had suffered the week before. Darian Felix came in and had some nice moments, but also had that fumble in the first quarter. Kanaib Benoit couldn't really find some traction. So Freeman really got the offense moving, and you look at those drives in the second quarter where Oregon was doing it on the ground, even with Burmeister's legs. He did have a couple completions that were encouraging, but really it was still done with the ground game, and that's Freeman, and that's even when times when the defense knows what's coming. You're literally seeing 9 guys in the box sometimes, and he's still managing to move the chains in some situations. So really need to appreciate what he's doing, because without him and Herbert, for as much as the offense is struggling, it'd be hard to imagine how things would be going in that regard. But he had a great game, and defensively too, I thought there were some bright spots as well.
31 points allowed, but I was just going to point that out. This team played the entire game with Troy Dye and Jimmy Swain at inside linebacker. Troy rarely comes off the field, but to have both of those guys, and really the only 2 guys available to play those positions, and they played every single snap on defense. I thought, just a great effort by those guys. Lamar Winston, 11 tackles. His previous career high was 3, which he had done 5 times. He really is starting to take advantage of the playing time that he's been given. Has strung a couple starts together now at that duck position, sort of a hybrid role, outside linebacker. But I thought he had a really nice game as well.
No doubt. We didn't see a whole lot of Fotu Leato at that position. He played some special teams, but Lamar played a ton too, and Justin Hollins. Jonah Moy was not on this trip, and Justin Hollins went almost the whole way. But yeah, the only other inside linebacker was Isaac Slade-Matautia, and still trying to preserve his red shirt, and able to do that because Troy and Jimmy play the whole way. I mean, Jimmy's the 4th different guy to start next to Troy, and the other 3, Hotchkins, Apelu, Rugraf, all not on this trip due to injury. So, they had to go the whole way, and they did. And there's no way they didn't suffer some sort of dings and what have you. Playing in the box like that as much as they were, but just real Iron Man, and there's got to be a lot of appreciation for that. I think what we're seeing, though, and we've seen it over the last 3 weeks, is this defense just gets stuck on the field quite a bit. I think 10 minutes in the first quarter. Time of possession ended up being tilted back the other way, close to even by the end of the game. But I mean, I think these guys are wearing down a little bit physically, but also mentally. I mean, when you get to a point, when you endure that third quarter where the offense just isn't helping it at all, and then the defense has a couple breakdowns as well. It's just human nature, as Willie Taggart termed it after the game, that is kind of going to get to you a little bit, and kind of the compete level is just not going to be as high as it was at the start of the game. And I just think, we continue to see that at the end of the game, gritty efforts for, 2 quarters, even 3 quarters, but then kind of the dam breaks and the will drops a little bit. So, it's hard to hold that against those guys. It's just, reality is what it is. The Ducks are in a tough spot right now. Reinforcements are on the way, because we saw the return to practice of Justin Herbert last week, and so theoretically he's taken steps, and at some point will come back. But right now they just got to keep grinding through it. There's no easy fix.
Yeah, all areas of the field need to perform for this team as it's structured right now to succeed and to start winning games again. Yeah. 31 points. Not ideal, but it wasn't that long ago that you give up 31 points, the Oregon offense is going to score 41 points.
I think we agreed that I think the Ducks gave up 41 points a game, 41.4 in 2016, and if they could just cut that down by 10 this year, give up 31 points a game, the offense was going to do enough to win games. They give up 31, the offense didn't do enough. Another thing we all would have agreed, I think, preseason, is that if Justin Herbert gets hurt, this team's going to be in a world of hurt. It's one thing to understand that intellectually. It's another thing emotionally to have to go through it and watch your team endure this. And the reality of it is a lot more painful than I think we could have predicted beforehand. It's just tough. You feel for those guys and what everybody else is going through. You feel for Justin having to watch it. You feel for this new coaching staff that looked through 5 games like it had really got this thing going, and then now we are where we are. So again, it's tough. You know, we could have predicted this. We could have predicted it was gonna stink. But it really stinks, and it's the reality right now.
2/3 of the way through the season, and it's a clean slate, 4-4, 500 record, 4 games left in the regular season, 2 wins away from bowl eligibility. So there's still a lot out there, but this is a team that's going to have to figure some things out until Justin Herbert returns to try to deal with their next opponent, which is Utah. Utah coming off kind of a surprising loss at home yesterday, as we tape this on a Sunday, to Arizona State, who all of a sudden looks like the favorite in the Pac-12 South, which you certainly didn't see coming at the start of the season. But they're starting to get their defense really turned up, and so that's going to be a challenge. The Ducks will return to Autzen Stadium. I think that could help, especially with a little bit more seasoning now. Burmeister with 3 starts under his belt, coming into hopefully a more friendly environment, and that energy will be there. One thing about the Rose Bowl yesterday, 55,000 is what they announced. I mean, that's a giant stadium. It was, the atmosphere there was not great.
The weather was too nice. It was too easy to sit there and lounge and enjoy the sun.
So sometimes that could work. If you have a hostile crowd, that fires you up too. So I think just the energy level of the game itself will be improved next week. And we'll just have to see how things shake out.
Yeah. Braxton Burmeister is coming along. There's no doubt he made progress in that UCLA game over where he was Stanford. Now, Stanford was the lowest of the lows, as Willie Taggart said after the UCLA game. Yeah, he made progress, but it wasn't good enough to win. So it's not to suggest that he's where he needs to be as a quarterback, but he's the guy right now, and so you got to take from it what you can. And he made progress. And there was a scene after the game. Willie Taggart addresses the team and was basically, "Hey, let's go down swinging. Let's keep fighting." Braxton Burmeister huddles up all the offensive linemen and basically reiterates the same message and took control of that group and raised his voice and was forceful and authoritative in a way that I hadn't seen before. Not that I'm in the locker room all the time, but some other people who are in there more than I am agreed that that was kind of a new, different thing from him. And so again, it's another sign of progress. Is he where he needs to be? No, certainly not. I mean, this is a bottom line business, and the bottom line is this team has lost 3 in a row, and the quarterback play has not been adequate. But there's still signs of progress. And if you keep making that incremental progress, this Utah game feels like a game where if Oregon brings it defensively, they have been the last few weeks. Utah has been struggling. You go from 7 points in that Stanford game. You put up 14 against UCLA. Can this be a team that puts up 21, 24 points against Utah this week? I think that it's reasonable to say with another step of progress at the quarterback position that's possible, and that could be good enough to win too. It's got to happen. But I think if you're looking for a silver lining, the progress was there, and there is reason to be hopeful going into this matchup that this is one where the Ducks can get a breakthrough.
Ducks and Utah, 2:45 kickoff Pacific time on Pac-12 Network from Autzen Stadium. Throughout the week, Rob and I will be checking in with the Quack Minute from practice. If you need to get to us, you can find us on Twitter. I am at McNamara UO. He is at Duck Football. Till next time, we'll see you.